Happy to do the review of this movie that was came in recommendation, and I gotta say it was a really cool movie. I do recommend anyone to check it out. There's also even old reference needs. If you were to live on the internet on certain things that were fads, from songs to like Zed's Dead, apparently it was a movie reference in looking back in the past, from where it when dubstep became popular and mainstream, or it picked up in popular for my around my age group in terms of listening to music. I was also into dancing and all that, so the kind of thing was picking up, trying to figure out stuff that I would enjoy. So I'm not gonna go too much on these things, but let's go into the movie Pulp Fiction. So it's a very old movie. The pacing is slow and based on conversational basis on things and characterization of the character. Samuel Jackson plays a really cool role in this movie. I'm going to let you know this right now. And a lot of things that I've seen on the internet, just from 9gag, comes in lines of John Travolta's role being placed there. I never knew what movie it came from. This is the one. So let's go on and talk about the summary. I think this is a pretty good movie because a lot of the internet memes are stemmed from this film, and it's kind of nice to see that. So it's a healthy sense of confidence where he puts dominance in his heist, putting on John Travolta's role, which is also popular to me on the internet. The film is driven by character healthy exchange and conversational social etiquettes, currently over any obvious underlying plot. I should gravitate even eating at simple, easy fast food restaurants in different countries, maybe even implies some standing from traveling or knowing cities from where were good places to eat. It gave me the impression that this guy. It gave me the impression of the aspects of fast food that this guy knows where to get good burgers, and he really lets that confidence show when he takes control of other aspects of his life, like seizing the venue when he was preparing for a heist. Knowing where to eat a good burger means to you can transition this to violence. Sorry, that was really good. So because he knew where he could eat, where he knew where were good places to eat, he was like, I know my way around a gun too. Things in lines of like things of being hypersensitive. When I saw the number code on that suitcase that they were bringing into the deal for the opening sequence of that movie, I got a little bit sensitive there. I was like, whoa, that's the implication. Like, I tried to put my security when it comes down to like sudden codes. Yeah, it's wonderful. But the pacing of the character of where Samuel Jackson kind of take strength in comes from the fact that these people, well, they're kind of like shady dealers, but they also are, in a sense, like a working class regime, right? So his aggressive stance takes it in his role that he takes a dominant role, being very similar to other roles that he usually plays in other movies from films that I've already watched him in. Not like recognizing his face enough in films, not so much as like putting specific attention on how Samuel Jackson does things, but his character is recognized in films. I see him like that's Samuel Jackson, there's like that kind of attitude. More now, I get to see more of his better works that he's proud of, and it's pretty. I like this one actually, yeah. So let's move on of where he takes his stance, but like uh so uh he plays in a dominant role, and it's not to say that anything bad, but the implication he certainly identified that kind of stance is a identifiable trait in his personality trademarks in his works as other characters that he plays in lines. It's when he gets to that kind of like commanding tone, you recognize that that's like a part of like how that's a similar thing in his personality that gets projected in most of his characters. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I would say right what paces me the interest of this film is characters' personalities. Even inferences coming from when they choose their language from my standpoint does make me look down on certain characters standing already through the main character have been already established from the start. Shit, what did I do right there? Even inferences coming from how they chose their language from my standpoint does make me look down on certain characters standing already from through the zone the main character has already been established at the start. Okay, so like, introduction, first impressions. This is the impression of first impressions of the characters that's choosing the film. Someone crude, kind of like, rough or for me, kind of stupid. would already be undermined by the characters, but you already know who the main characters are for the introduction, so they're gonna have a dominant stance for a good portion of the film, right? But before that, just like distinguishing of like weaker characters in comparison to a stronger one is a way of like giving 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 strength to where you want your attention to be in the film. Does that make sense? But the film is divided in three sections, so that's why I wanted to understand that there's three different arcs where the characters, the film's uh, uh, focus is. And I'm going to say where the introduction coming on, where they meet in the bar, doesn't really transition in terms of like where they get pushed out in their individual characterization. So the first arc comes in lines of the pacing film is driven by the dynamic intimacy between Travada and this pilot girl. And when I say pilot girl, this is interesting. In movies when they introduce new actors and also they fresh actors going into a new role, they go into I think it's called a pilot film. So she gets introduced in one character and it is said that inside, so it's not very contextual. She played a role where I think was imitating Marilyn Monroe, but like this can be a big break, or this can make it or break it. If the character is not well liked, this person's acting career could later not give her opportunities for better roles in future films. Does that make sense? So it can be a bit of a sensitive character thing for people starting in this business when they have to pick a character where doesn't they have to play a character that seems uh, denigrate, depending on the emotional attachments of the actor that's going into that role. Does that make sense? So like if someone's really wanted to push themselves in the future of like in that business, starting out in roles where you're seen, you're kind of like you don't win the audience popularity, is gonna set you back in terms of like possible future opportunities to work. It can hurt, but that's business as well. You know, that's how things work. So this is the understanding where Travada is meeting a character that comes in lines of uh yeah, sorry. So the film comes in lines of yeah, so this is where I take a stance. Sorry, I didn't get the name, but the pilot girl from the movie, which was playing some form of like, I think it was a film was a pilot girl said something inside about that there was contextual heavy. I feel some character is stylized from Marilyn Monroe at the restaurant. Yeah, so they go into this like '90s bars, like Eddie's Rockets. I've been there a few times. That kind of style thing. It's maybe outdated, but it has this cultural norm, and I still enjoy eating there with friends before. But so there's some intimacy with Travada and this girl that she heard about in terms of conversation in lines of being an upcoming actress. What's so? And I had to laugh because John Travolta knew the name of all these popular actresses, and he's a meme, so that's what's kind of like funny for me. I'm sorry. Uh, so the dancing, the starts was an upcoming pacing dances '90s, just people getting comfortable and like that kind of feel of like high school ballroom. People don't know what they're doing. They're trying to move to the music to get comfortable. And what drove me from that film was Borderlines. Sorry. The lines were set on a concert where the party listens and responds to each other. And this is where it comes, you feel a good connection on things. What By paying attention to someone, what they want to give out to you, and what you've understood and what you've given back to them. That kind of like touch, pull, give, take. Does that make sense? Right? It's very playful and it gives you the impression that someone shows an interest in you. Does that make sense? And it's I don't know where like modernization of things, if we're kind of like distanced ourselves from like that kind of personalized things connection made with people, but I always preferred that in my stance over the kind of like the swiping nature of things when it came to related romantic development of relationships. But whatever. I just figured like this was really old school. I'm not sure if I am doing the medical related reference for this. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about there's some medical stuff that I kind of pinpoint and had an interest. So drug overdose implication had interest in me as well, as it's very common for leisures or people to get their highs or enjoyment, particularly in the entertainment industries, where they vigorously enjoy doing drugs and all that. And it's part of the culture of just like getting the highs in life, enjoyments from that kind of industry. For me, in a healthcare standpoint, I have my own reservation, but I'm not here to tell you how you're supposed to live your life. I'm supposed to be the safeguard barrier to like ensure you don't lose it, right? Uh, yeah. So like you can do these things, but I'm not gonna say anything. Like that's my stance on things, right? So, uh, I saw a kind of like condiment place, and immediately in my head I thought it was a ketchup joke. Come back, get to the pace of things. So interesting aspects of the watch brought into the topic of the film, the extensive backstory. So so that's Joe Travolta's story and arc. Oh, sorry, it concludes with the girl who overdosed herself, needing to get she went into cardiac arrest, and she needed to get cardioverted, or they were looking to do some form of needle injection. I think adrenaline. They thought this is completely off in terms of standardized CPR care, in lines of like what's adequate, and like where he stabbed her as well. It's kind of like out the bar gun, but like the focus of the film was never in terms of its medical accuracy. I just see it as just like that shit is insane. That normally, I don't think in practice that is actually how it works. You wouldn't be targeting the chest for adrenaline boost as well if you're in lines of like an allergic reaction or something. And it was implying that she might have been going into a seizing fit. That's why I think it honestly she was sniffing cocaine, and I guess I thought this could have led her to having seizures, but I could be. I'm not 100% confident. She was bleeding on the nose. How I see cocaine is a vasoconstrictor, and I know it can be associated with nasal septum deformation for long-term usage if you're already doing it. But like where it leads to her signs and symptoms, would it lead to like blood pressure issue from active overbleeding? What so? She would need to lose a lot of blood. For the context of the film, again, it's not pointing out of its medical accuracy, especially in that old time setting when it would have been much harder to like learn stuff from old. You'd have to rely on old fashioned ways such as books in relation to like access to information, as comparison to like how modernization is now, right? Next part of the arc of that movie, so that the one with John Travolta kind of ends on that section, and then the character gets reintroduced in the second arc, which I think is the maybe it's weird because the chronicle order of things of the film for these character depictions isn't stressed out. They all have their individual arc, but the order of where things are from the prologue to first arc, second arc, third arc are not in order. They're all over the place. This next arc that gets introduced in the film is the one of Bruce Willis. And this is an interesting strategy. I've seen some films do that. Some people like that because they can kind of like make a reasoning of causation and effect of sequence of events of things that was happening, whether that's enjoyable or it disconnects people in lines of like following and submerging into a plot story. For the focus of this, I felt the characterization of personalities are what are brought out in terms of like keeping interest in the film more than things. So it's not driven on kicks. It's again entirely on personality and characterizations of the characters introduced, right? So again, the medical aspects, I advise you to just watch it again because like there were some things that I'm a bit rough around rough and remember, but it was completely off. But that's the implication as well, right? Just like medical trained experts will be able to get in one go because they have practice rehearsed this. You don't know what you're doing and you get an emergency. You only got one shot, and you mess that up. That's it. This is a film though. So interesting aspects of the watch brought into topic of the film. The extensive backstory of the watch brought into values of huge attention. We're now in the second arc of the film, talking about Bruce Willis now. Scenes of films are pushed now towards Bruce when he brings excitement to the film. Introduction of the killed someone must be from the street boxer, but no elaboration. So they just tell you that. They don't show you that. They don't even explain his skills. You just get told that, and it already makes the character seems, But I don't want to say this in a retrospective on extension, do this in real life. No, but like it brings attention in terms of like saying, "Whoa, that's crazy! What happened?" And it's on street fighting, so the implication is like there was no rules that anything could have gone, so a fight gone wrong and he killed someone, right? So scenes are pushed towards Bruce Willis and he brings his to the film, introducing and and then the next part of the setting of the film has Bruce Willis appeals of dominance in the story, puts him into, but obviously we the viewers haven't watched him box. Yeah, so this is the biggest kind of thing I'm having a hard time making an appreciation of. They'll never Phil introduced him as a great legendary boxer, but I never seen this guy fight. So we the viewers haven't watched him box and kill someone. So again, this movie is driven by the characteristics of someone that's done something in lines of unregulated sports and carry on in terms of fighting. It has certain implication. I will word on the fact that he can't control his abilities to be a bit vulgar rather than dominant or masculine, as he doesn't know how he doesn't seem to have any control of what he's doing. The fact that Even the fact that the film says that he's killed someone makes it interesting where the story will be driven from this current point, but a good amount of that he has a good amount of strength. And I make the connection that if you watch the film, his introduction of a watch is placed before that because he has huge sentimental attachments. As a boy, he was introduced this, and his father gave him that watch, and he took hold a lot of value of it. But he doesn't remember. For me, it's just like he never made a deep appreciation of the difficulty it was for him to get that watch, right? Because he just remembers his father gave him the watch, and his father played a significant role in his life, right? So that's why he took this heirloom and hold it hold strong attachments to it. So I can tell that Bruce Willis has enough emotional touch to the heirloom, so the backstory was stressed out to be a significant value to his dad. And he sees it in that manner, whether it was a choice of the actor to hold a certain amount of respect for in lines of upbringing, or the character was not supposed to hold such huge emotional attachment to the object. If this is the case, the guy should have done a better job. There you go. So I had this parody of how the actor chose to like show attachment to the watch. What was he trying to get people to think about the character? For me, it felt like uh, there was not enough depth. That was the exploration that I had on the criticism of that role. So like, it's the way the sequence of the events are this: father from war gives his son a watch, explains the backstory and its value. Character himself doesn't have deep emotional attachments or remember too much. Just says, my dad gave me a watch, uh, and it's an important thing. And when he loses it, he kind of goes like a short fuse and starts blaming things. He has his girl, and he gets angry at her. So he's just like he doesn't have a lot of control on things. And if you were to link it in terms of violence, you could say that's a good reason why he killed someone. But then for me as well, it's just like it's overuse of force is just like not as strong as another character that can address his aggression appropriately on things while still taking a dominant stance. The aspect of control over power is the bigger thing that characterizes me, someone that has more dominant feature of being in control compared to someone that throws his power all over the place and cause casualty. And I guess this is power abuse. That's the thing to say. It's power a sense of power abuse. But like there can be repercussions from that. So Travada's character got killed. So in his arc, Travada characters got killed almost immediately in that film, and it's very anticlimactic given the build-up that I got from the first arc was Travada for the scene. and also being kind of disappointed seeing how Travada's meme is propagated constantly on the internet. Maybe not so much anymore, but yeah. So I was pretty disappointed seeing that. Not Personally, I am not a great fan of Bruce Willis in this film. From my standpoint of things, yeah. Putting aside that the clearly out of place misogynist that came out of nowhere from the police headquarters and the cop was a sleaze bag. Those scenes were kind of ugly. So like, he kind of like goes into a fit, goes into a rampage, and like gets into an accident, and then the police stops him, and the police is kind of like a bit of a sicko as well mentally, and then he exerts his dominance on maybe ways that are kind of like yeah, he's a masochist, so he likes inflicting pain onto other people. The thing is, he picks prisoners as his victims, and he arrested Bruce Willis and this other black guy, and he really showed his masochism for sexual uh, contextualization, which is pretty sickening for me. I was like, ugh. No, that was gross. Putting aside the clearly out of place messages that came out of there from the police headquarters, yeah, and this feels like some depictions, like in more rundown societies in comparison to less connectivity. I could see people's getting away with that kind of behavior actually in more less connected places. Someone that's like exerts their dominance and powers in a way that's kind of denigrating to other people's characters. So yeah, that's where I took understanding of that scene, which yeah, it wasn't that great. So movies is separated. Yeah, okay. So I talked about that, and near the end, it concludes the story where Bruce Willis was able to get away from the cop's sleaze bag, and casualty damage was placed out. So the police is kind of corrupt. So there's just like law and authority in that town isn't very strong. It's kind of like the setting of Fallout. If you ever played that game, kind of like the Man of the Standpoint, which is like the cops are a bit sleazebag. They take advantage and have their way with some people, and that means like they have people who are making their business or trying to look out for themselves have to what do you call uh, have to up their game in terms of like their own assets. So like, cops have guns, they have guns, that kind of thing. Uh, so near the end though, what was appreciation that cuts the scene that makes it me feel like what was that? Because like I can see something that in pop culture was the ending scene that Bruce Willis says. It was like Zed, who's Zed? Zed's dead, baby. And if you ever watch those dubstep films, I'm telling you, dubstep things. I listened to a few as well, right? Before I made the appreciation of getting to my medical career progression. So like I was just like, oh shit, this is iconic. Damn. uh, so there is some sentimental placement as it seems like he's playing the role of acting as adjudicator. Okay, so this is the best for me. This is also the best arc. I'm not trying to say biased. The character is really strong in this and has a lot of interesting places. So let's start with the third arc, and this is the role Samuel Jackson plays on it. And there's this is I didn't know he did this in all films, but this is a Tarantino film, right? So his Easter egg appearance plays there. It's playing a minor role in acting, but as a minor character in the film. But I think he is. I think he does play the directing role for this film. Looking at the works, so I feel a nice sentimental implication that may involve the creation leave marks in their films. You know, this is kind of like him trademarking his stuff, right? So I would say Samuel Jackson's character Pitt conversation in lines as he contemplates his thought process of how society develops and thought process, along with the fact that his business is dirty money. In a sense, it's kind of like a weird thing. He's taking some attitude of attachment to what he's reading from the Bible, taking some responsibility, but like he's in a shady business regardless, right? So is he trying to preach the word? No, yes and no. Does that make sense? He understands the leadership that comes across from like what he reads, and it shows a certain amount of moral, ethical guidance that he's looking for in his actions. Like he's just like he's a thinker. At the same time, he's a violent man. So it thought process along with the fact that his business is dirty money. In a sense, since I think both of these characters are both hired guns from the way the introduction of the film is. Disputing his thought process seems to me that he's contemplating his stance of certain aspects of morality, which has its charm. For me, it has its charm from my standpoint. Yet at the same time, it projects thoughts of ambulance. As I assure you, he probably contemplates thoughts, knowing still he has to. He takes things and doesn't need to. It doesn't practice on this in his maturity of thought in lines of his job. So he reads this thing, but like he doesn't extend his practice to his profession, and he distinguishes the two, thinking these is a great. He takes attachment to this, but it doesn't mean that he's the controversy comes from like his job to his attachment of guidance from the passage of the Bible, right? Which are both strong elements at a time. Religion taking probably some attachment in lines of like constructing society. Yeah, at the same time, the reality of like being a hired gun and maybe that's all the job he can get. You know, he doesn't need to extend. So in a step thought process, it's just like it's still developing. Does that make sense? Which is interesting for this character. Um, uh, so yeah, so that's the one I want to come to lines, and uh, his characters are not always given a fair outcome. It heavily influences as he does take Bible reference to know where he channels his thought process and hold his stance in conversation. And this is the beauty of this last arc, really. From my point, he knows not everyone are equal. Yeah, he's like, not everyone is equal in this world. The last scene of it displays a huge amount of power through the conviction of his words and the confidence he had over someone he did not know. That was pretty impressive. I was fucking impressed. I was thinking, oh shit. It forced him to take a stance where he could walk with what he had, even so, after seeing what was in the suitcase, Ringo wanted more. So the suitcase on the first scene of when he was opening it and the robbers coming in, it was just Ringo. Play on the thought of a robber who doesn't have any self control. He wanted the money. He saw this, but Samuel Jackson said, "This is." He took a stance of like, "This is not your possession to have. This is their business in lines, in that lines." In my eyes, those robbers would have already forfeited any sympathy. My stance of like conducting in terms of judgment of people's of behavior on lines of certain things. My eyes, in the standpoint of the characters, not other associations, in lines of robbers who would have already forfeited any sympathy I would have had in lines of someone that would spare of ammunition, given the context. If I were to think about Samuel Jackson's stance or Pitt in that role, right? I'm a hired gunman. I see these guys bringing out guns and stealing people. For me, I wouldn't have that much hesitation about shooting. So what he decides to do onwards is pretty impressive, and he was successful, which was cool, which was really cool. Um, so I can't say what. So I would have had someone that would have. So yeah, I would have not thought of sparing ammunition to deal with a threat, obviously done at the risk of my own life. But I can't say why Pitt had such confidence that Robert Ringo would yield in such a display of exchange. Perhaps he already knew his life was forfeited, that his gun turned for his attention carelessly, or maybe displayed that his wife was also at the risk of Trotter, his partner, hanging at gunpoint. For arc introduced it before Bruce Willis arc, given the anticlimactic end that Bruce Willis, Travato's character had was Bruce Willis, right? So it was really a really well displayed a dialogue displayed in this film. It played on the scene was a definitely good climax. This was really the best peaking point of that film for me watching it. Um, it really plays on the character of Pitt is. He seems to contemplate morality in a weird, unlawful society that they are in. Interesting, right? Um, He chose to send them off with mercy, which inspires me for me characters that someone that holds the doctrines he practiced in what he reads from the Bible, being like an advocate towards being a shepherd. Him showing mercy would likely make others drop their guards as someone that has capability of someone that can lead weak people, which made this scene pretty cool. Yeah, I can't deny that I think the character written here and that scenes that was of that scenes was well played out, being cool, seemingly calculated, definitely under the pressure of his life and the dominance he had over the rover. To most people would think would have not have the integrity to leave with what they already have due to the undisclosed greed that they already had been judged from his character's action. I feel these outcomes can play out very differently on people that are too far off to be of any fit in behaving in society. So his choice to deal with the situation with his words had some element of risk to which he successfully pulled. Obviously, this is a movie, but like in that scene, being in the moment, incredible. I think it's incredible was the degree of violence making that judgment thinking you who could shift the momentum of the power dynamics of that film through his words. So I like to finally conclude the film over a rating. Normally I have a bit of a structure, but like it's been a while since I did this, and like I am going to optimize different strategy onwards my movie reviews on certain things. And incorporating some things that I've kind of like taken on part of my personal project. You'll find out later on. Just they're fun things. It's just I gotta do with what I gotta do, but it's fun for me to kind of make these creative projects regardless. So 8 for me. 7 or 8. And that's the conclusion of Pulp Fiction. Check it out. I summarize a lot of it and depicting parts. Hey everyone, thank you for putting the effort to watch the effort I placed on making something of an entertaining video. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said before, it's not forced, but like I really would appreciate any contribution and support you give to this channel, as it gives me more motivation and more incentive to enjoy more video creating and content creation. If you find that the content drifts away at any point, you can always subscribe. It's no big deal. Again, it doesn't mean much. It doesn't take much from you, but it means a whole bunch of me, and it would feel great if you would just reward my efforts of trying to be positive and contributionary. Thank you so much. Bye.